Welcome to Carl DeGregorio's Desk Session 29. And I'm going to jump right in with what happened to me on 28. I guess that's okay to talk about the continuum here. I forgot to record. I'm not going to beat myself up about it, but learning for it, I'm checking now. We are speeding, and that's the old filmmaking term that I should always notice to myself. Sound speed, picture up, all that stuff. I need to be aware and not so flustered or so under the gun. And so that's a little bit of what we're talking about today. But in that week, and it's been less than a week because I kind of truncated when I recorded, etc. So I made a self-disparaging comment with a friend. And there is language is a technology, plain and simple. And right now people are hung up on language. And as a technology, like a weapon is also a bit of technology, a rock, a slingshot, a gun, a knife, a sword. Language can also, kind of be put to task to do good or to do bad. The phrase that my friend used was, be careful what you say. Obviously, we've all heard that. Words are spells. And so then that gets a little pagan and people get all freaked out about that too. But the great Stephen Sondheim in Into the Woods, there's the song, careful the words you say, children will listen, those kind of things. So the words do carry some weight, carry some meaning. And that is why ultimately you have to be careful what you say, especially if you go through the trouble to say things out loud. I am working constantly on how I talk to myself interiorly, and occasionally in the world of humor or in the world of stand-up or in the world of presenting to people as a well-rounded self-effacing, self-deprecating / not too full of themselves person, you'll say things that aren't true about yourself to seem humble, to seem not so sure of yourself. And ultimately it's a self-con, and that's what I'm choosing to kind of take from what he said about careful what you say, words are spells, because I was basically saying I screwed up this week on desk sessions. He said some nice things about just how I've been handling it. And then I said, I got behind the 8 ball and I did it last minute. And I basically disparaged that my numbers aren't big. And so why should I care? And that's when he said, that's what you got to be careful of. Anybody watching is to be appreciated. And this may get a little heavy, or not heavy, but in my show, I talk about a scene where all my ups and downs in the early part of my career, losing an agent and feeling like everything kind of hit the skids. I know that this is sort of off the topic, but I remember getting dropped by my agent and scampering to get a new agent. And in that time, I wrote a screenplay, trying to enact the Stallone ethos of, write it yourself. And it, was very autobiographical. It was very 90s, it was an interracial love story set in Pittsburgh. And, what little I thought I knew about it, I tried to pour into it. And at a certain point, I was... I didn't know what to do with it. It never went anywhere. I don't even have a copy of it now. I sent it to Writers Guild to protect it. But at one point, I talk about how in my show that I had a situation where I was in a Barnes & Noble back in the day. Barnes & Noble had like big tables and chairs, those... jury room chairs, and you could camp out, in Barnes and Noble. And I was there one time, and I had the script, and I was with a person, and we made the suggestion to just like kind of read it back and forth, And I started reading my part and they started reading their part, and it stirred something in them. And the person said, wow, I didn't know you'd be coming with all that stuff cooking in terms of like, I don't know. And I wasn't, we weren't being loud. We were just sort of connecting. And, what I know now is, an early stage reading of talking and listening. And I don't, hopefully the stuff is so seamless that you wouldn't notice a difference, but what the words say may have been a little more intense. And so it jarred the person, which was cool, because then they followed suit by saying, you really you must be a really great actor, because I could just tell by the way you lit up and all that. And in the show, when I recount it, I say that it was a very tiny tendril of hope, and it was an audience of one, and that was enough to sort of just that day, that month, that thing to say, we're not barking up the wrong tree. And until you get the notoriety or any of that stuff, or if you ever do, you're going to see smaller audiences, and ultimately that has to mean something and not mean anything. Meaning, what I mean to say is, as long as you're doing the thing you want to do, which is the work, the storytelling part, the crafting, the the acting and or the writing, if you're doing that, then you can almost you shouldn't be concerned about numbers, in my mind. And so I say this to say that if there's people outside of my friend group and people outside of my family, and if it's one or two, and if it's a random 30 seconds that you'll give this look because I snuck into your algorithm somehow, thanks is all I'll say. And stick around if you find any of it interesting. But I'm no longer going to disparage this effort, and I'm no longer going to disparage it for myself, because I found it very helpful so far, and it's making me feel more creative. And I have to remember that I wrote a play that we produced in New York City, and I made the mistake of having a Tuesday through I think it was a Tuesday through Sunday schedule, 3 weeks. And the fatal error in that was I was shooting for the moon, hoping that if I kept all these available showings that I would increase the opportunity for it to do well and to get a review. And what I wound up doing was I spread my database. Back in the day, it was literally mailing people, calling people, leaving people, handing out flyers on the street. I thinned that crowd out, where if I had done a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and had 3 shows a week for 3 weeks rather than 3 fucking whole weeks, I would have been able to condense the potency of those crowds, right? And we did okay as far as we had a couple of sellouts and we had a couple of nights, but there was one agonizing evening where no one showed up on a Tuesday. And then there was another night where I think 4 people showed up. And, my rule was always, as long as there's more people out there than are in the show, we can go on. And it was a push, because it was like, it was even, because some of those Shakespeare productions in the basement and stuff, you're lucky to, be able to have a cast of thousands out in the crowd. And you couldn't always apply that rule in a bigger cast, and certainly with stand-up, there were nights when there's a couple people out there, and there are more than a couple, more than 2, or more than, you don't want to be kidnapping people to watch you do stand-up, but we've all done it. And so with the play, we did an entire show with the light cues, the sound, the acting at a premium, I would hope. We ran through the entire show for 4 fucking people. And they gave us a standing ovation. And I knew one of the guys, and he came to see me in the bar. He was a very supportive guy, a guy named Harvey, lovely guy. And he came to the bar weeks after, and he'd been supportive even before that. He had seen me in a showcase where I did like a scene from an Arthur Miller play, and he said to me, man, I was really kind of worried about you because I didn't think much of what you did in your showcase, but it wasn't until I saw you do your show that I really know you're a hell of an actor. And he was very complimentary, and he's a guy who got like a tailor-made command performance of 4. And so again, it didn't change my life other than it did because I can talk to you now as an experienced playwright, as someone who got a show up in New York that opened the same week Mel Brooks's Producers opened. So, and it was so grassroots and so shoestrung, and it was a great exercise, but it was shouting into the abyss. If the only goal was to, sell out, or the only goal was to get brought to off-Broadway, or so similarly with this, if the only goal is to get my numbers up, I'd be screaming and yelling about something right or left, and if the only goal was attention, I'd be maybe weighing in on some gossip, and I have to content myself with that. We're a big enough world, we're a big enough landscape, the internet is big enough that this is niche, and I can only put out what I think keeps my integrity and keeps me, so I won't be for everyone. And then going back to what my friend said is stop disparaging the very few people that are watching, because, and it also harkens back to, running for president of my 8th grade class. And I said, who do I vote for? And my dad said, you vote for yourself, And I thought that was egotistical, but he's like, no, you vote for yourself, because if you wouldn't cast a vote for yourself, how could you ask somebody else? That's the standard wisdom. But it's funny what you can remember. And so, again, you think about who the one, if you had an audience of one, who would you choose? And that's really what we're kind of chasing. Is it your mom? Is it your dad? Is it your higher power? Is it God? If you could get the quote unquote attention of who or what. So again, you're probably not driven to this stuff if it has to be mass appeal, although that is certainly a dream and a hope. And, I believe in the intrinsic value of things I have going through my mind, and the things I write, and the things I hope to produce and have in the past. They just haven't gotten a lot of eyeballs, and I'm not going to bag on myself for that. But I am confident in my one-on-one thing, so maybe that's the appeal of this. And so now that we're not beating ourselves up about forgetting to press record last week, or and we're trying to move forward, and I'm getting better with the ankle, still in the boot, but just sort of now I'm at the frustration point where I have to do more with it's starting to get in the way because I'm feeling better. It's a tough transition to make from sort of licking your wounds to getting better and having to push it a little bit. And I think that's a point of, if you want to use an analogy, getting out of the boot is also getting out of the final draft document. You got to take it from the document to the world. You got to take it off the keyboard and put it out in space. And you have to get out of the boot and start walking again with a limp, with the cane, with a smaller cast on your ankle. And you got to get back to putting your foot on the ground. And I've done a couple of foolhardy things where I've been I've purchased shoes, which I'm only wearing one of at the present moment. I'm purchasing shoes because I'm projecting, into the future of wanting to have, my footwear on both feet be more conducive to the healing and support. So I'm getting like high tops and stuff like that, and I'm getting Birkenstocks, hideous as they may be. They are the how my feet feel right, and I'm doing arch raising exercises and physical therapy, and I'm just trying to set myself up for the next phase by buying shoes when I don't need them or when I can't stand in two of them. And I think that is also, kind of how it goes with the arts, with doing a show. They talk about the act as if. Now that's two places you do the as if. The as if in an acting scene is okay, here's just an exercise, do the scene, but do it as if you gotta pee, and you're gonna have all the behavior of a guy trying to hold it in, and then that may trick you and trick the, and that's an as if. Or do it as if it's you can do a million different as ifs that kind of can stir creativity. And some may argue that takes you out of the present moment because you're doing an as if, which is outside of the text world. And they may be right, but, if you make it a physical impediment, that can be in there, whether the playwright told you, by the way, Mercutio has to piss. Like, you don't hear that, you don't know that, but it's not going to fuck up the story if you playing Mercutio kind of say, what if I have to piss? Because what if the actor has to piss, Would that add something to it? And, many times I'm sure you hear about actors' performances and then the take that the director's like, that was amazing. What did you do? And most of the time they say, I don't know. Or I thought my pants were going to come down, so I fucking went through it a little quicker. Like, you can have, temporal, in the moment, flesh and blood moments happening that are for the actor, not for the quote unquote character. And those can help. That's an as if to juice the scene. You can do it as if it's your last time seeing somebody. A lot of times the script will be written, what if this is the last time? And it's the what if as if. But the as if is also fake it till you make it is another way to sort of see that. So walk around as if. I'm buying shoes as if in a couple months I'll be able to walk again and I'll be able to hike again. I've purchased luggage as if I were on my way to a trip. I purchased I signed up for a mileage credit card as if I'm going to be traveling more. And so those are things I'm doing now, and that's sort of what I have to now do to get my show out in the world, to get this out in the world, is act as if I'm getting tens of thousands of views. So thank you for being there at the beginning. And also, what would I change if I knew I was getting a lot more attention? I hope not much. I'm sure it does, though, right? There's that observed particles react differently when they're unobserved. That shit's really out there. There's scientific things that being observed it changes things. And that's what you see when someone gets famous for something else, and then all of a sudden a tweet can blow up in their face, or an insensitive comment can fuck them up down the line. I don't have that worry, but theoretically I do. So I'm always trying to act as if it's already, would I be able to live with this if I were on TV or in a movie or on Broadway? Would I be able to live with what the fuck I'm doing here? And if the answer is yes, then I wouldn't have to make too many adjustments. Don't get high on your own supply is another one, right? That's where you start reading I made a decision a long time ago when I was doing enough theater in college. We were in a big city, so we'd get reviews, and the decision was, this is what you talk about in drama school. Do you read the review in the paper, or do you make a decision to skip it? And, very frustratingly, you make that commitment with yourself, and then some dick face posts it on your mirror the next day if it's good. But what if it's bad? And then what the fuck are you going to do then? So you have to make that decision. And I guess that would sort of be like the comments today. This is how analog things are, is if you don't know what a review is, it's basically a comment on social media in a newspaper. But they can fuck you up, and then you can start to change the performance if you hear the reviewer say attractive and disconnected, or if you hear disconnected or falling short, you're gonna make an adjustment that is addressing that. And so I appreciate being sort of told that if there's only, X amount of views or eyeballs on it, that it don't sell them short, don't sell yourself short, and act as if it's already act as if it's already happening. And you think about hoping to have success. We just got through Oscar season, award season, and you hear about people dying before they get the award, so that's a bummer. You hear about people wishing that a parent or a sibling were alive to see it. And I think the as if can apply there, meaning if you kind of ever heard this notion of time not being the way we see it, but, I guess the minute you're born and you're held by your mother and your father and all those hopes and dreams and all those things, that you don't have to prove it to them, because that drop, that drop of hope, that drop of humanity, the first animated breath you take, in that all is everything, and so it's the ego that, you can't. Yes, they are looking down, perhaps, but those moments, it has to be for you, right? It really does have to be for you, because there's better actors than me who are unawarded, and I think of myself as a world-class actor, and that is not evidenced by where I'm at in the industry. But you have to persevere, and that's what I'm starting to really focus my show on. Is my log line is, it's a show about perseverance, a show about optimism, a show about hanging in there, a show about endeavoring to persist in the arts and to not, the youth obsessed cultures that we all are now trapped in. I just can't see myself as washed up. And unfortunately I did at ridiculous stages. Do you know what I mean? I talked about 27 in episode 27. I talked about 27, which was a make or break for Bruce Springsteen, or 27 is a real turn. And so, but if you could quote unquote go back, which is a silly notion, but if you could go back to 27, and you would be, I think you'd probably be turning up the heat, knowing what you know now, to make sure that you gave it all you had. And so at whatever age, if you can light that fire again, it's really about acting as if, you're going to get it done, and also stepping out of the boot, stepping out of the walking cast, stepping off the crutches. These analogies are now where I'm at. And so the incubation period is over. It's probably over incubated. I am a fucking 10-month baby, this one-man show. And I think if I can get my head around the fact that it won't be the last, that's the thing that I didn't really plan for. I had a really good friend who, back in the day in New York, he said, great show, great play, someday you'll do better. You'll write another one. You'll get another one off the ground. And it's way too much time in between, and trying to look for a home run rather than loading the bases up, and driving in the RBIs, right? RBI is more important than individual stats. So you're helping the team with an RBI. I'm using sports. I'm all over the place with the analogies, but I just wanted to say that it's a good feeling to know I'm gonna stand on 2 feet again, and be grateful, and that 28, 29, it's a drop in the bucket, and I'll get better at this. I already have. I think my brother pointed out, if you look at the first one of these, I couldn't figure out where to put the camera, and it'll improve quantumly each step of the way. So I really appreciate being able to make these connections that help me move forward. And 29 heading into dirty 30, all the cliches. And it's there's one thing I did want to talk about. I'm a little reluctant to. I might want to bring this back again with audio visual, but I talk about I've used music for my acting. There's rules about theater that you don't score scenes to build drama, which they do in movies, and probably over scoring things is evidence of that. You're trying to goose the emotions. So that it's I don't know that it's frowned upon, but it seems like a trick that, in the moment, acting technique, some of the, Stella Adler, some of the Meisner repeats that keeps you in the moment, keeps you connected with your partner, all of that would probably not really prescribe to this idea of like basically being in your headphones before a scene to get a correlating emotion going, loosening you up before you get in there. But I've done that before and continue to. And I think the little trick I use is that it's a song that can be incongruous to the period, to the genre, the style. It's not literal. One day in class they were doing like a mafia scene. It was set in the 60s or whatever, and everybody knew I was kind of a music head, and they said, what song would you do? And the guy was like, something like doo-wop, Frankie Valli. I'm like, that's too on the nose. And that's why I don't like the playlist algorithms. Don't mix and match genre. They don't mix and match era. They kind of, it's similar and like, you know what there's not randomized with the human element of like these incredible beat mixes that you can do. So I'll give you one example, and this is getting a little long, and maybe I'll talk about it with the song, but there's a play by Ibsen called Lady from the Sea. And Ibsen's a little heady. It's kind of about an aristocrat woman who marries an aristocrat guy. And the big character is the lady from the sea, right? That's the big character. And then the other kind of big character, not in stage time, but in the story, is the stranger. And when I was at school, I had a buddy who was on a soap opera, and he let me hang out at the studio. And there's a really nice older actress who was so enamored with the idea. She was a old grand dame of the theater, and so I was on break hanging out behind the scenes at a soap opera studio, and she said, what are you working on? And I was like, I'm doing Lady from the Sea when I get back. That's my big project the next semester or whatever. And she goes, and who are you playing? I said, the stranger. She's like, of course, it's it's like the gentleman caller of Ibsen, And it's a weird, creepy part, and it was an overly stylized direction. The play we don't have control over their directing. It was a grad student's directorial project, and then we get to act in it. And she did a lot of moody, atmospheric stuff, built a ramp. It was very conceptual, and so I was playing a character who had no name, and his whole thing was she gets married, but he was out to sea, and he said we were married when we threw our rings in the ocean. He considered that a binding marriage, and that he just had to make it back. But he comes back to her to find out she's married. And it's these two scenes where he's like, and then he gives her the old, like, I'll be back. He freaks her out. Holy shit, you took me seriously. And then he comes back to basically claim her. And I think she kind of goes crazy. I don't remember too well, but I knew it was like two big scenes and that was it. And I was standing on a ramp, and I was in this like shimmery shirt that looked like I came out of the ocean, and I let my hair grow, and it was like a big, like, the other guy, the hot, sexy, lead singer of a band versus she married the fucking lawyer, that guy. And these are all archetypes, right? They're in rom-coms, and I wouldn't call Ibsen anything at all resembling a rom-com, but that archetype of what you could have had, the lusty sailor or the proper gentleman, and this is before any female empowerment stuff, but it's a big character. I think she winds up going batshit, and she's seeing things, and I guess there's even a debate whether the stranger is a real character. So that's what I'm playing, but I also got to play it like a flesh and blood person. And so if I'm coming back from this long journey at sea to get my wife, even if it's not legal, the way I played it was, this is going to be quick business. I'm going to snap my fingers. She's going to jump on the back of my bike, and we're out of here. And so that's what I kind of brought to it, with the idea then the scene drags out and she's resistant. Then I'm like, well, then you make the adjustment, like, well, now she's not biting, what the fuck? And then he gives her the ultimatum, I'll be back to take you. I'll give you some more time to think about, break up with this. I mean, I'm really making it colloquial because, that's how I got to sink my teeth into it. But I did have to carry on I had to carry on that journey and that longing. And we're in our 20s. And so I had to somehow get this, when I hit the stage, I had to have this feeling present that I've it reminds me of Step Brothers when, I've come across the land to give you my seed. Like, it was kind of like that, and he knows some of that because he studied. So when he pulls these riffs out of his brilliant mind, Will Ferrell, he knows some of this drama school shit. So it was like that. I've come all this way, but how do you do that? And it's dead fucking serious, Serious as fucking, cell therapy. So I had a song in my Walkman that is a song I've used over the years. And I don't know what century. Ibsen is the 18th century. I don't know. Maybe early, like 17th. I don't know. He's considered classical theater. So, and he's also a translation, and it's also a different country. And they just did Enemy of the People, Enemy of the State, Enemy of the People. They did a Broadway version of an Ibsen play, and he's pretty much the only classic playwright that really got my yayas out, other than Shakespeare. I still don't understand Chekhov enough, but Ibsen was my dude. And I played a song in the wings because the whole play is long as fuck, and I've got two scenes, and I'm this character that has to stay up somehow backstage, and I had my Walkman, and I played over and over and over and over a great song that's, I think, a Brenda Russell song, but it's made famous, or the version that I became acquainted with is a song called Get Here by Oleta Adams, who's one of my favorite vocalists. And so Get Here is incongruous. It's an R&B / almost like jazz artist. She was discovered by Tears for Fears in Kansas City. She's a great piano player. And this song, Get Here, very simple, but it's a stone cold ballad, and it's, you can reach me by trailway, you can reach me by an airplane. I don't care how you get here, just get here if you can. There are hills and mountains between us, always something to get over. If I had the chance, surely you would be closer. I need you closer. And it's slow and beautiful, and it's like fretless bass and piano. It's a great song. A lot of people know it back in the 90s. A lot of people would sing it at open mics because it's a really nice alto. It's all about the voice and the singing, and then it's all drawn out. And so I would play that over, and the whole idea is like, that's me saying, I don't care how you get here. And it was about the longing and that I would go over the seas to see you. And so that was what I was bringing in. That was the heat that I was packing when I came on stage. And that's just one example. It's a part you didn't see. You didn't know whether we nailed it or not, but that was just a little glimpse of sort of nobody in the drama school was telling me that was even a technique per se, but I know a lot of film folks use the song, and I'll give you more examples of songs that really work for me with scenes that I had breakthroughs with emotionally. It's just a really, I really connect. I'm sure everybody does connect with music, but I really do in a very great way. And it's almost like a warm up for me. Jim Valvano, we're doing March Madness, but Jim Valvano, when he died, right before he died and gave the first ESPY speech, he said, if you laugh and you cry and you love, that's a great fucking day. And so I don't mind greasing the wheels and having a fucking crying jag here and there, because it's for me, it's a way to keep the Stradivarius. If this is the instrument for actors, you got to play the emotion. So I'll do that in my daily life with music, and thank God for the streamers, because now I can have the catalog at my fingertips, and what a cool thing that is. So again, I'm not a Luddite or a technophobe. A lot of the stuff helps me. So anyway, that was just a little glimpse into how you might use the song to motivate a scene that doesn't have to be otherwise you'd be listening to some weird clogging music from the fjords, and that's not going to get anybody going. So but I guess classical music was present there, so you could have used Stravinsky or some shit that would have worked. But for me, as a kid from Jersey who liked the R&B music, I had to find something that had the emotional correlation, even if it was anachronistic. So I encourage you to use anachronistic songs, and that's what all the filmmakers have been doing that for years, right? You know, they did Sofia Coppola, you know, Marie Antoinette used rock music or punk rock music, so because she was the punk rock queen or whatever. So like I dig that. I don't know that I'd use it for the storytelling per se in my estimation, but you can use it as an actor to get your emotions set before you enter scenes, or you know, score for you your emotional journey through the play or the script. So anyway, I have really rambled on because I guess I was trying to get some get back from last week. So thanks again. This was Carl DeGregorio on the Death Sessions. Peace.